All right, welcome to the next episode of Over A Pint. This week I have Lorne Andrews. And why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Lorne Andrews. Oh, you want to know a little bit more about me? I've been in the real estate world for about 12 years. I've been a broker of record for a real estate company for a few years as well. I run a branch of Dominion Lending Centers, which we kind of specialize in productivity for realtors. Yeah. Over the years, I teach for RECO College. That's a little bit more in my background. We developed something called the agent marketing system, which helps and assists people with sort of consolidating their needs in the industry all under one roof and stuff like that. Running for RECO Board of Directors, so that's the most recent thing, and we've nominated for the last 4 years for awards for Canadian Mortgage Awards and stuff like that. So I've been busy. It's love this industry. Right?
Perfect, and it drives you to drink sometimes. So what are you drinking today?
Oh, it drives you to drink, right? I always envy those people that say they're in the industry, they don't drink. I want to know more. Okay, so today I was careful in the selection today. I went to what was in the fridge. And had to be cold, right? That was my criteria, right? So I picked Waterloo Dark, okay, which I assume is from Waterloo, or that could just be that it's a safe bet. I don't know anything about this beer, but its motto is Pour the Beast. So that's what I am going to be drinking today.
And I'm drinking State of Mind Session IPA. It's got some cool comics on it. I also know nothing about it except that it's from Hamilton. Yeah.
There you go. Hamilton. Everything goes from Hamilton, isn't it? All right.
Well, there's some cool scenes coming up there.
In Hamilton?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's one of those upcoming places. So mine's a dark beer.
Perfect.
It's not Guinness.
IPA.
But it's... There we go.
Perfect.
I gotta say, Andrew, this is like the coolest show ever.
Well, if you're gonna do an interview, you might as well do it over beer.
I'm thinking, there's like I said, I was saying the memories are created over pints, right? Mm-hmm. So I appreciate that.
Gets people opening up a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's great. So how long you been in real estate again? I know you mentioned it.
It's actually pretty good. Right?
It was a good beer.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So 12 years. About 12 years ago, I started in real estate, and
why'd you get into it?
You know what? I started in the mortgage industry. I'm more in the mortgage industry right now. I really focus more on the mortgages. My real estate side now is more in the training, development, and production, right? So I work with different brokerages, different realtors from all different areas. I have... So what I got into it for is my wife was into real estate, and I started on the mortgage side for a while, worked for Canada Trusts, and then I got out of that for a little bit to do something totally different. I started running hockey leagues. And a little bit different, right? And I was at a place called the Ice Gardens, and for about a good 8, 9, 10 years, I was running these hockey leagues, and it was huge. Like we had
Vaughan?
That's York University, like right at York University. So it was a multi-million-dollar business. Like it was huge, right? So where everything sort of comes together is it's business, and learning how to run different businesses is important, and especially I find with a lot of people coming into the real estate world, understanding how to run a business is critical.
Yeah,
right?
I knew nothing of it when I started.
To a
degree.
I find that you get people that get in the industry, and if they start getting some momentum, then they get all excited until all of a sudden tax time comes along, and then they realize, oh my God, like I just spent all my commissions, now I gotta, I'm supposed to be paying this, I'm supposed to be paying that, but HST, I gotta save this, what can I? They don't know what to deduct. Things like that. So there's different challenges when you get into the business. So on that side of it, after a period of time, I got back into doing the mortgage side. I connected with some people from the Ontario Real Estate Association to create a college location. Got my real estate registration then, and started getting more into the real estate going through the coaching, Rich Robbins and stuff like that. And here I am today, but 10 years later or whatever after that. So, and again, my sweet spot is just helping people develop, connecting to people like you and other people. You're the same, the same reason why you're in this industry is to help people succeed, right? So that's where you find a lot of people synergies with people that kind of have those same goals. And that's how I got here, right? So
now you do some stuff with Brian Buffini.
Yeah, so we got a really cool relationship with Buffini. Now he's been Buffini. If you're not familiar with Buffini and Company, they're the largest coaches company in North America.
Bigger than Tom Ferry.
Bigger than Tom Ferry.
I thought he was the biggest. I was wrong.
Tom says he's the biggest.
Number one.
Number one. So probably like in statistically, because they have their CRMs and everything else, they can measure a whole bunch of stuff. They know right now it's about 1 in every 7 homes in Canada are sold by people using Buffini coach members, basically. Nice. Right. So the stats are high. They're up there. Especially when you get into building your business by referral. That's generally the sweet spot in terms of where you want to build your business or take your business to. And with that, so we have a lot of partner relationships with the CRM, and we do we have one coming up starting next week. Brian Buffini has a peak producer course. So we've taken that course and just put it on steroids a little bit, and we call it an advanced peak producer. So basically what we do is we use that as the base, the peak producers. We run it out of Mississauga, where you see the studio is and everything else. So what we do during the period of time with the peak producers is we sponsor marketing for a year. So they get unlimited single property sites and all their text capture codes and all this other stuff. They help with their marketing. We have a recording studio, so we start helping them with their videos, right? So video big thing in real estate now.
Just a little bit,
eh? Just a little, right? Yeah. So, and a lot of them, they're a little bit skittish at first, like they don't want to get in front of the camera and stuff, but that's okay. Like we just do a little bits at a time, all right? Some people are great at it, like they just.
Some people catch on so fast.
Yeah,
that was not me.
Me too, right? So I'm still learning it, and then I get some people come in and they teach me things, right? So, and that's the cool thing about, like again, when we get into this. Like these sessions and the peak producers, because I'm a local facilitator, I can teach anybody from any different brokerage, right? Yeah. So when I have people come to our classes, they're from Royal LePage, Chestnut Park, Remax, they're from all over the place, right? So you get sort of a cross-pollination from people from different brands, different experiences, people brand new in the industry. Some people, one guy he's making about $500,000 a year. Needs to bring it up to $1 million, so he's at that ceiling. He's trying to get past that ceiling. So we sit down and we do like a realtor needs assessment. We say, where are those gaps, right? And where the foundation is, and then look for all those holes, and we connect them to the solutions, right? I might not have all the solutions, but you might be a solution for something. Somebody else might be a solution for something else, but we get them to that next level. So that's pretty cool. And so we do a little video. We also include instant inventory now, Joe Nigo's program and stuff like that, and then Jody Gilmore from HDTV. She does it with me, right? So you get 2 mentors and stuff like that.
So is this going to be her first one with?
No, this is our third,
nice.
our third time. Yeah, so I'm excited. It's it's really really good because we have 2 different backgrounds, right? So we can really complement each other, and the students or you guys that are part of it really get a lot out of it. So usually, people are doing, they say you'll do an extra 3 deals over the 12 weeks, which is their average income probably generated from those 12 weeks is about $100,000, right? So
GTA prices are nice.
GTA prices help that, right? So if I was doing this in Sault Ste. Marie, it might be a little bit. Yeah.
Well, that was funny is I was doing some ads with a client, and they ended up getting a few deals just off the first 100 leads we sent them. But just because of the prices in their area, it worked out to a 50,000% return on their investment.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they only spent $200 on ads.
Yeah.
$200 total for that one weekend. Generated 100 and something leads, but then one of the leads turned into 2 listings and a buy. And so you're looking at the return, you're like, it's almost comical. Like how high it is. I'm like, I wish I could, because I can't actually advertise 50,000% ROI, because that's not going to consistently happen.
One time, and that's the great thing, because people look at, and they ask me to say, where do I focus? Do I go after the online leads? Do I go after the repeat and referral business? And there's no one answer you can give them, right? Because I have this. There's one guy was in our class about a month ago. He was in the business for about a year and a half, part-time for his first year, right? And we talked about this part-time thing, with this whole controversy thing. But so part-time for his first year, did 27 deals, right? He's now full-time, all right? New to Canada in the last 2 years, right? So a year and a half, and
good start.
So great start, right? But he doesn't know anybody. So how do you start building, your business by referral when you don't have a network to do that with? So you got to look at, where you are in terms of, what you have in terms of your resources. So his focus was the online leads, and then he would connect. And I asked him, what point were you converting? And he goes, it was usually about the 12th time I connected with them, right? And a lot of people give up after what?
3 at most. So I think the stats officially are 10% of agents make it past 3 calls.
Yes.
Which is...
Only 10% make it past 3 calls.
Make it to the 3rd call.
Oh, okay.
I think it is.
Good. And then they say, okay, they're not interested, right?
Yeah, but I think it's, so you get like contact, but normally by like the 6th or 7th call, but you don't get any level of commitment up until like the 12th or 14th contact. And almost nobody makes it that far.
Wow. Ever. So it's the persistence, right? It's the consistency, the persistence, the habit of not giving up, not being, some people are so connected to, they personalize the result, as opposed to this is part of what they need to do. And, by having those habits of being in consistency in what you do, that's what makes a difference. This is a guy that didn't know anybody. He got the same type of leads as anybody else would be getting, right? But why was he able to convert so many more? And it's probably because of that consistency, right? And plus, it was what he was delivering in those messages too. So it wasn't just the contacts; he was bringing value to the relationships as he was connecting, right? So, but my thing with this guy now is he's great at the online leads. Like he's digging for the diamonds, and he's pulling out one diamond at a time. But he's got to nurture. Now he's got to learn how to nurture the relationships to get that person to spread the word and start building business by referral from the people that he's actually mining. From.
That's the thing. Like, the longer you do it, the more you start pulling off your back end too. Like, and start growing it exponentially. Like, a lot of people will start like converting 1 to 2%, but then the second year you can go convert another 1 to 2% from that first year's group.
Yes.
And now you're like, overall you might be closer to 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of people left off, is like a lot of dead leads. They just like call them, like when I was in real estate, when I was selling, I actually asked people in my office, like, send me your old leads, and if I convert them, I'll give you a referral fee. But just send me all your old leads and see what happens. I didn't get a ton out of it, but I still got a couple of things out of it.
But you got stuff out of it, right? And that's where, because they would give up on it, right? So you would be able to sort of dig that back up, and with the the other thing that I noticed too. So for example, I'll take this guy as an example, and this is a guy. So this is the great thing about when you're teaching and when you're educating. Here's a guy that year and a half in the industry is teaching me stuff, right? Yeah. Because he's just doing things a little bit differently, and that's the cool thing, is that when you can learn from others, it doesn't matter. You could be 30 years in the industry, you can be like brand new, right? Yeah. Everybody can contribute. So this guy so what he would do is he would look at a specific area, and we would hear things on the news, the doom and gloom of real estate right now, right? So you hear it on the news that, real estate sales are down by whatever it is, right? And then, if you watch Surf, for example, another great guy that does is Richard Robbins, comes out with these monthly reports, and he analyzes exactly what they are.
You find them on Facebook.
You find them on Facebook, right? So he comes in, and you guys, we should all be doing that for the areas that we serve, because he would do it specifically for the Brampton area that was in that particular region, and it would contradict what these people are hearing on the news, right? No. So it would light the fire and say, maybe now is not a bad time to list or sell. right? Because our area is a little bit different, right?
No,
Here's
so
what's happening in our
different
area.
in each, and like even in towns it changes, or like the type of homes
Yeah.
the market can change. Like even when like the sales were down in Toronto last year, the condos were still on fire.
Yes.
So if you looked at overall, it sounds like it's bad. Look at just condos and it's amazing. Whereas like you come up here and like detached sales here in Aurora are just brutal.
Yeah.
Like there's a house just up the street from me here that it's been on the market now like 7 months.
Well, that's the months
Like,
of inventory in Aurora. They said
Yeah.
it was about 6 or 7 months. I think it was, right? So
Well,
that's what.
Before the big drop, we were up 55% year over year.
Yeah.
So it was way too much. Like it's kind of funny. Like we lost in our house like $250,000 in value, and I have a buddy of mine who's waiting to get into the market, and he's just like, "See, like, isn't that bad?" I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm still up another $250,000 because the market was so crazy."
Yeah.
Like
I know. You put it all in perspective, and I think that, and you get that right now. Like on the mortgage side, you get it with, my God, what do you mean the rates are now, 3.4% for a 5-year? That's crazy. Well, that's not so crazy. That's actually
3.8.
is 3.8.
Yeah.
Okay, so my first one was 7 point something, and
my
that
parents were
was
like 16, 17.
okay. So there you go, right? So and people were like, "Where'd you get that great deal at 7%?" Right?
Yeah.
So even now, when you put it all in perspective, is because where we're coming from, your mind's still there, right? And you'll get that. You guys get that all. I hear it all the time, saying, you're going to listing presentation. They're saying, you're giving them a value, and the value is X, and they're saying, well, no, I believe my value of my home is this, and they say because a year ago our neighbors sold down the street, and that's what they got. Right? They don't understand. They think that they're in this bubble that's outside of reality in terms of what the market is doing. So that part of education is important. So this guy was great at giving them something different. Because I always talked about items of value and what you're going to bring that would help be useful in terms of the information you bring, and he wasn't just doing, the home enhancement checklist or how to, 7 mistakes, how to, what to worry about before you sell your home and stuff like that. He was taking that extra level and say, here's some stats. So he was teaching people what other people
more
weren't
personalized you can make stuff, the way better it is for people. Like
Yeah.
It's like one of the campaigns a lot of our clients do is like, we have a buyer looking in your area.
Yeah.
And I was like, but like some of them will like it's just a picture of an area. But I'm like, no, like go stand in the neighborhood next to like a park or a street sign where someone from the neighborhood will recognize and be like, that's my house or that's my street.
Okay.
So like if you do that, people will stop and actually look at it. And it's so much more interesting to be like,
Right.
you're like, imagine you're scrolling on Facebook and you see the park that you always take your kids to.
You've connected, right?
Yeah.
It's not because you're inundated with so much stuff, right? And you see the ads and it's generic in a sense, and all of a sudden that hits to something. No, wait a minute, I recognize that, right? So you're identifying with this.
It's an interesting one of like, and this is what works on Facebook too, is like you're almost making it look organic. So like when they stop, it's like, wait, is this someone that I know?
Yeah.
And like, so like a sold one, instead of doing like the fancy sold graphics, we're like, no, like go take a picture of you with the sold sign or your clients with the sold sign. And then someone's scrolling through Facebook, they're going to stop just to see if that's a friend of theirs.
Yeah.
By the time they realize it's not, they've already stopped and looked at your ad. It's that same idea, like I don't know if you heard about it a couple of years ago where like all the deli meat companies used to cut in perfect circles. All the meat that used to go out, and they spent millions rejigging their machines to cut them in odd shapes
because
so it was organic. Because that looked too processed. It's the exact same meat.
Yeah.
But they spent millions just to change the shape of it so it didn't look like that, and then sales went up.
Wow.
And it's that same idea of make it look like it's organic and raw and authentic, and you'll get way better results.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you something. So let's say, for example, I was looking, I wanted to create some inventory in this particular neighborhood, right? And you're pretty good at all this Facebook marketing and targeting, postal codes and everything else. Could I, let's say, and legitimately, I have a family that wants to move, and not like I'm trying to get a listing in, and sorry, I guess they not interested. Now I got a listing, right?
Yeah.
It's like I got somebody who wants to live in here. Could you create, could I do a video of these people saying and introducing why they want to live in this area, and then create a targeted Facebook campaign to that postal code and whatnot, so you personalize it? Has anybody ever done that before?
Yes, we've done it. It actually works pretty well. So depends on your clients too. If your clients are willing, I put them in the video.
Well, that's what I'm.
Yeah,
that's
so
what I'm
not
asking.
everyone's willing to either put their clients in or their clients are not always willing. But the ones that are, it works so well, especially if they have kids.
Yes.
And like you almost tell their story. So it's almost like a backstory a bit too.
Yes.
Because like the idea behind the video then is to get the potential seller somewhat emotionally invested in it. Because like you always hear about someone who wins like this bidding war with a really personalized letter to the seller. It's that same idea, just one step before that.
Yeah.
Because someone like, especially if you live in your home 40 years and you're about to sell and you're kind of emotional, you're going to be way happier if a family is moving in and doing what you did in that house 40 years before. So it's the same, just create like a story of them, and then but you do it in the neighborhood. Like go, like there's a park around the corner from here. Go do it in that park.
Well, that's
Film it and be like, this is John, Sarah, and Billy, and Sarah, or whatever, and be like, they want to live in your house. They're looking right here.
Yes.
And it creates that attachment, and then you run the ad. Now, from a results perspective, it still has to be someone who's thinking of moving. Mm-hmm. But what happens when you personalize it too, and people get a little bit invested, is they start tagging other people in the neighborhood and being like, hey, weren't you guys thinking of moving? This might be an option for you.
Very nice.
And so it can create that. And worst case, it's an amazing branding play because it shows what you're doing for your clients even when you don't have a listing. So now it's just like that extra little bit of branding that no one else has. So if people can do it, I always recommend it.
I just, because I've had, when people are doing, say, multiple offers or they're doing an offer presentation, I often encourage them to do a recording of the people that are looking to buy the home, right? And a little bomb video or whatever, and have them say, hey, listen, we really love your home, really, looking forward to living here and growing up and whatever, and send it off to the people you're about to do the offer with, right? So they connect. It's even better than a letter, right? Because you're just, I can see those people, right? And especially if it's a family, and if it's a contractor and says, I really like your home, I'm going to bulldoze it, and maybe you don't want to do that video,
like,
right?
Here's my vision for the home to make it better.
We're going to knock this down, right?
Gone.
Might not work as well, but so
it's going to be my new drug.
That's right. So you want to so that's great, and then that's where I just that's awesome. So if you can even have people do that and target that area and that with personalized.
And if you don't have a video, try to get a picture of them in the area.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, then you just try to like do it with you talking.
Gotcha.
So you're like, I have clients, and then you kind of like a family, if you can, like do like a little animated family then.
Yeah.
Like Bill, Sarah, and whoever, like they're looking at doing this. Right. And then you do it that way.
And make it real too. Don't make it like they're homeless and throw dirt on their face and stuff like that.
Unless you want to do it in like a comedic way. That would actually be pretty funny. Like get the kid to just be like, can we move out of this box? Have them come out of like the tube in the park. Like, I think that could actually be pretty funny if you did it the right way.
If you did it the right way. But then you might be concerned how they would qualify for a mortgage, right? So there'd be other issues.
That's why you have to do it comedically.
that may or may not work, but that's great. We have a site called I Love Mortgage Brokering, right? Are you part of that or no?
I don't think so.
No, you probably should be, because your world is basically the same, right?
And I've started working a bit with mortgage brokers too, but by referral. Because like what happens is like I'll start working with agents, and then their mortgage broker will be like, "Where are you getting these deals from?" Because it's like all of a sudden this new stream of deals seem to be coming in, and they're like, "Where are these coming from?" And then there's like, "Oh, we hired this Facebook guy."
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh, do you think he does mortgages?" And then I end up getting some referrals that way. So we've started working a bit with mortgage people. It's not as effective as real estate so far. Mm-hmm. And part of that's just Facebook, because like, for instance, one of our mortgage guys, his most profitable center is debt reconsolidation.
Okay.
That's really hard to advertise on Facebook because of Facebook regulation. Not because, like, if I could word it however I wanted, it wouldn't be hard to generate leads. But Facebook's really strict with anything that might give someone a negative feeling. And the second you start talking about debt, all of a sudden now you're on the fine line with them. So like the first time we launched our debt reconsolidation ad, it got disapproved 3 or 4 times in a row before we could get it approved. So I had to keep appealing and making tweaks and edits, so that Facebook was happy with how I was presenting a debt reconsolidation ad to people in a way that wouldn't make them feel bad about themselves.
Oh, really?
So like you can't start your ad with being like, do you need to get out of debt? Because now you're making them feel bad about the fact they're in debt. So you can't specifically call out anyone. You kind of have to just like talk hypothetically, like, you know, being in debt is never fun, and we found a way for our client. And like you gotta,
it's all about financial freedom, and you're like spending it.
But you can't talk about anyone, like you can't word it in a way that if you were reading it, I was in any way talking about you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I just have to be talking about the idea of being in debt.
Yeah.
And then how like this system fixes it. And even then, like it wasn't a great, because like it's also hard to find people on Facebook because there's no like specific targeting you can choose. Be like, find me people in debt. Like in the US, you can go by income, so you can be like, all right, let's go low income, low net worth, target that way because they're more likely to be in debt.
Yeah.
In Canada, you don't have that option. So then what are you targeting on? Like, you can't really target people who are like, you know, those quick payday things because that's not a targeting option.
Yeah.
So it became a really hard way to try and find people. Our most successful mortgage one was just like finding first-time home buyers because that's easy. We just create a guide. Here's how to finance the purchase of your first home. Here's like, and then basically the guide is every option a first-time home buyer has.
Oh yeah.
So like here, first it explains all like the terms, like what's the difference between amortization and term.
So the glossary type thing.
Yeah.
So
and then goes into.
Have you seen my first-time home buyer video?
I think I did, but it was a while ago.
It wasn't that long ago I released it because I did a thing on Facebook to vote which video you like better. And one was dogs.
Oh yeah, there was a dog one, yeah.
And the other one was.
You tagged me in that one, I think.
I think so because I don't know if you gave an opinion or whatever.
I get tagged like
I know
15 times a day, right?
So the other one was. It was about, you know, if you spend $2,000 a day in rent, and it adds up, and it says you paid $700,000 over 30 years, right, or whatever, right? So it does that, right? So, and it's amazing how, you know, a bunch of, I really like the dogs, and then a bunch of them say, I like the dogs, but this will hurt people more, like it'll resonate with people more. But what would you do with a video like that?
So you'd
like a first-time home buyer video.
I would put it on Facebook, but on your business page. Upload it to your business page. Then if you want it on your personal, then share it to your personal. But upload it to your business page, and then you go into the back end of Facebook, and you tell Facebook, anyone who watches this video, at least 25% of it, add to a custom audience. Because now anyone who's watching your video, you retarget with an ad for your services. Okay,
so you don't just take that video and start creating an ad.
Oh, I do. So the ad is just get as many people as I can to watch it. So instead of like that direct call to action of like, call me for your first time home buyer needs or whatever, because they don't know you yet, so they're not going to book time with you right now.
Right.
But if they watch it even half of it, that's probably a pretty good sign that they're interested. Now, anyone who watches, whether you choose 25%, 50%, 95% of the video, anyone who watches that much, now let's target them with an ad of something of value. So this is now where it's like, download our PDF of Guide to Buying Your First Home, or here's the government rebates available to someone buying their first home, like some piece of value. And you keep it short, like 2 to 3 pages long. And you say, okay, you've watched half of this video, and you don't say that in the ad, but it's like, okay, anyone who's watched half this video, now here's a guide to download that is useful to you, because I know it's useful to you because you watched this video about it.
Okay.
And to download that, you get their name, email, and phone number.
Okay.
And then now you just start calling them. And then depending on how many people do that, because obviously it's a volume thing, you need a certain amount. If enough people now, you start retargeting those who downloaded the guide with an ad to book a free 15-minute call with you. So it's kind of a 3-phased approach.
Okay.
Phase 1.
And you can set all that up?
Yeah.
Done. You're hired. Okay, we're gonna experiment with that particular ad, I think. Because if you're thinking on you're having more traction with the first-time home buyers. Like the dog one's pretty cool because people will watch dogs.
So it's pretty easy to run the same ad, same copy, and just switch out the 2 videos, and it'll run both at the same time, and we'll see which gets a better result.
Oh yeah.
So instead of having to like pick like, I think this one will do better, I think this one will do better.
Yeah.
Who cares? Just run them both at the same time. Like, say your budget's $10 a day.
Yeah.
They'll just split between the 2, and then eventually, as one performs better, that one will get more of the budget. And then 24 or 48 hours later, you'd be like, okay, this one's performing better. Turn off the other one, stick with one that works.
Okay, good.
There's no point in running it for no reason. Like, we do this all the time, like with listings. We do a single image because we found single image from a lead gen perspective gets more than like a video and more than a slideshow. But we'll run the ad with 6 different images of the house, And then after like 48 hours, we turn off the ones that aren't performing as well, and we just run the one that's performing the best.
Yeah.
And normally that's an outside shot. Sometimes it's a kitchen. But like randomly, one house, the foyer of the house was the best performing image from a lead gen.
Really?
Like, why would someone care about a picture of the front door and the stairs leading upstairs? But that's the one that got the most leads for us.
Well, maybe because they want to say, let's see what this house looks like from the outside, and then they click it, right?
Yeah. So, okay. So, spring market's coming up.
Yes.
If you like majority of agents' income's coming in the next like 4 to 5 months, realistically. You know, whether it's 50-60% of your year, but that's coming up now. And a lot of we get this all the time with people come to us saying like, you know, we really have to hit the ground running, we have to hit it hard, this is going to be like our year. What would you be doing today to get ready for the spring market, which is basically any week now is going to really kick off?
Well, that's okay. So today you should have been doing it like a few months ago.
But right? Say you're delayed.
It's like spring now, right? You gotta get going, and trust me, there's going to be a lot of people in the industry. They're just taking it as they come, right? So they're not preparing for spring. They're not thinking about this, right? So, so if you have your target area or your target market, you got to think of what type of message you want to deliver to that area that's going to be unique for that particular area. So you know as well as I do, you live in a home. I don't know if you've ever received a realtor's information inside your mailbox.
A few times.
A few times?
Yeah. I don't know what's ever made it into the house.
Okay, good. But I bet you that you have probably like, okay, and then all of a sudden you've taken a second look at it, or you maybe you did bring it in the house. Maybe it got past the
barrier,
the garbage, the recycling barrier, right?
We recycle.
Yeah, we recycle. Sorry. Yeah, so the recycling barrier. So maybe and we all get them, right? So you can kind of learn from basically what type of material is being delivered, how it's being received. Okay, it's got to be of value. I talked a little bit earlier about how one of those newer agents targets a certain area by being very specific, okay, and educating them. So I've seen so everything works differently for different people. Some people are comfortable with door knocking, right? But when they go door knocking, so what I've seen the biggest results in the door knocking is, they knock on the door and say, listen, I want to bring you some valuable information you need to know about your neighborhood right now, because this is the spring market. And I think it's critical you have this because you might know some people that might be moving, right? And it takes the edge, like you're not targeting you. I'm not targeting you. Are you going to be moving anytime soon, right?
No.
No, get away, right?
Get off my step.
Right? I'm going to bring you some valuable information to make you the hero to anybody that you might know that's going to be moving in this area, right? So you're giving them that, that ammunition that you're going to be using to, sort of create something bigger. So when you can do that, and bring some value, if you're doing the door knocking, or it might not have to be door knocking. Maybe it might be some of your Facebook targeted marketing and everything else where you can get people and start gathering people's information. So I think that's a big thing right now. I think that tapping into your database and educating the people that you already are connected with, right? And saying, this is the spring market that's coming up. And get out there. So when you start going into get little pop-by gifts. So if you guys have been in the Buffini, you get little gifts and stop by, start seeing your database, right? Start going out and doing a little drop by and say, just stop by to see you. If they're not there, leave something for them, take a little picture, send them a text saying, I was in the neighborhood, thought I stopped by, your garden looks beautiful, right? Or something that's connecting, right? So especially with people that you've been connected with, it's always great if you can kind of give, giving starts that receiving process. So just that little connection, right? And I bring you a little gift and a little pop-by gift and something like that. It's pretty cool.
What
right?
kind of gifts would you be giving as a pop-by gift?
You know what? I have one in the car. I wish I would have brought it in. So it could be anything. Like I just did. I had a meeting the other day. I was invited to a business mixer. So one of the big things we do is teach people how to start to do their business mixers, right? How to bring people, different professionals, different areas, into a meeting. So once a month they do this little meeting, and I brought them little pop-by gifts, and it was little gourmet popcorns, right? And just thought I'd pop by. You know, I'm never too busy for your referrals, and it's just a little something that you would give them, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, wow, this is amazing. It was popcorn. It wasn't the magic wasn't in the popcorn. It was in the thought. Like, it doesn't have to be anything. You know, if I had known, if I coming here today, if I had brought you a little pouch with little dog bones, and make no bones about it, I love your referrals, and I brought it for you because your dog, which is down by my feet, by the way,
she's comfortable.
She's very comfortable. He was, oh, that's so cool, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't. The magic is just in the thought, right? And by stopping by and just giving something a little, it doesn't have to be a big value, but just connecting with people, because it's that whole science behind. You know, that reticular activator, right? So it's in your mind. So I'm going to, you know, I'm meeting with you, and we'll be talking, and I'll be front of mind for a little while, and then the world will start getting in the way and chipping away, and I'll get further and further from your mind, right? But in the meantime, if I've connected with you and say, hey, listen, if you knew anybody that's looking to buy or sell a home, need any type of financing, you know, do you have a mortgage broker you refer your business to, or am I that guy? You say, yeah, Lorne, you know, no problem, you're that guy. Your reticular activator is going to be on queue for the next few weeks, right? So I'm just recruiting my sales force, right? So a few things. So reconnecting with your database right now is huge, right? I think that's big. People already know you, and people, you know, especially the people you've done deals with, you've got them into their homes, like they're raising their families there. It's a lot more exciting for realtors than it is for the mortgage guys, because they're not as excited about their mortgage as they are about their house, right? Is that a fair statement?
Pretty fair, yeah. People love their house, hate the fact that they have a mortgage.
Yeah, how's that house going? That's beautiful. I love it. Hey,
they can't wait
how's your mortgage?
Yeah,
it's great. It's like that commercial where the guy brings in the cake and the guy brings in the forks. I got the forks. It's like, oh, okay. Not so exciting. So it's so reconnecting with that database. If you're trying to get new people into that database, that is, you've done through your Facebook campaigns, your door knocking and whatnot. Like Joe Nego's program on creating instant inventory has a whole bunch of, letters, forms, and everything else you send out to the neighborhood, right? So you can actually use some of those strategies we talked about those buyers looking for that particular area, and educate them with the stats.
Yeah.
So I would say that would be your gears kicking into it. Anything else you can think of that would be ideas?
So one that we've used that was worked well, and this is actually how I got my first ever listing appointment. So I've used it for me, I've used it for our clients too, is like if you're going to door knock an area, so you mentioned like, let's go here, give them value. Run a Facebook ad to that area that only runs where you're door knocking with your face on it. And if you're with like a brand that's recognizable, so like when I sold, I was with Remax, and most people see the balloon and they know what it is.
Yeah.
So I do an ad with my face and the balloon, and there wasn't really much else there. Like it wasn't like a direct lead gen, but what it was is it ran a neighborhood. So they knock on the door, or I knock on the door, and then talk to them. They go back inside onto their computer, and they're like, "That's the guy who was just here." And now they recognize me, and that's how I got my first ever one, where the message came in a page being like, "Hey, you were at my house today. Just saw your ad. We are thinking of selling. I spoke to my husband. Do you mind coming and letting us know kind of what we could get and what the process is like?"
Oh, that's good.
So it didn't directly come from me knocking on the door. And even like I remember that person vividly because it was like one of my first times ever out door knocking, of knocking, and she just could not have seemed less interested at the time.
Yeah. Like
there wasn't even a like leave me your contact so I can follow up type of opening. Like it was just straight, no interest at all. She couldn't wait to get away from that door. Like she almost seemed uncomfortable that she had to open the door for me.
Yeah.
But then I get a message from her later that night asking me to come to a listing appointment only because she saw my ad.
Okay, so it reinforced your legitimacy in terms of why you were there, and,
so I did
and
it,
she connected with.
So I do it. So what I started doing is the week leading up to door knocking an area, I'd run an ad with my face, so that when I knock on the door, you get a few people who are like, "Feel like I know you from somewhere." No one ever said like, "Hey, you're on my Facebook."
Yeah.
But a few of them were like, "I feel like I know you."
That's good.
And I'd be like, "It's from Facebook."
That's phenomenal.
Yeah. And then after,
fantastic.
they're like, "Yes, that guy."
That
works.
Good.
And you can do it. The cool way to do that too, you have a listing appointment coming up, blast their house with your ads. Because you can do down to like the 1 mile radius. And if you know, like, for instance, that they're probably like 42 years old, as an example.
Yeah.
Run the ad for anyone at that address within a 1 mile radius between 40 and 45 with ads about your services, ads about listings you might have. So when you go in and talk about, here's the digital marketing I'm doing, they've just seen for like however long leading up to that listing appointment and a couple days after, ads of what you're actually doing.
That's phenomenal.
And
so
you
know what, and it's funny you should say that because I talked to this one gentleman because I run the RECO College of York University, so I have these people coming in all the time, and he was telling me he used to work with RE/MAX, does not with RE/MAX anymore. He has a team. He says about 14, 15 realtors that work for him. He's in the Brampton area. He talks about how busy he is. He goes, I just can't keep up. Yeah. He goes, because we have a system that when we go into a neighborhood, we know that with that one listing, we're going to generate 3 more listings within a certain radius. So he takes all these little elements. He takes the stuff that you're doing, the door knocking and everything else, and they have a strategy with every particular listing that says, okay, this particular listing is going to get us 3 more, right? And that's their goal. Every listing gets them 3 more in that area. Many people aren't into it, like they don't think about it that way. I had another realtor that, she did a contest in the area that basically sent it out to all the neighbors and said, it was a contest and guess how much this home will sell for, right? Yeah. Whether you can disclose that or not, it's a different question. And the closest to it will win a gift certificate, the $20 gift certificate. Swiss
I was going to buy that house. I would enter right before.
Just to buy. Yeah. You get the $20. You buy the house just to win the contest. And but she got the exact names and emails and phone numbers of 26 neighbors are surrounding that home, right? Which is great, right? So a lot of these different strategies are pretty cool, and I love the strategy that you're doing. Like, it's almost like, how Otto does with his agent locator and his tag,
retargeting,
retargeting. I used to do a charity event, and it was with the city of Toronto, and we used to run a haunted house every year, right? And this thing consumed me because it became almost like its own business for a while. But we helped with working with at-risk youth kids, and it was this great project, right? And I was spending about $40,000 to $50,000 a year in radio ads, right? Wow. Yeah. It was crazy.
Give me that on Facebook. And
well, yeah, that would have been it, right? Where were you back then, right? So
selling.
So then I talked to Otto. I said, listen, I know you do real estate. I said, what about this event? He goes, yeah, we can do it for this event, right? So I went from $30,000 down to $3,000 for that event for the month. Yeah. We sponsored places like Toronto Zombie Walk, tagged their things, and it was great. So you can, if I think that what happens is, and especially if you're newer in the industry, you don't know where to spend your money. Right. So, and your money is it's tight. It's expensive. It's not a cheap industry to get into. Right. So, you got to be careful of where you're actually investing, and so you need to invest in leverage as much as you can. So, things like that is huge, and particularly if you want that presence of mind, so you want them to be thinking about you before that listing presentation. What a great idea! Let's just nail them with these ads.
Cheap, $5 a day. You can do minimum budget.
$5 a day.
Yeah. So imagine spending $35 to increase your chances.
Yeah. No, you know what? That's phenomenal. I love it.
It's the really almost borderline creepy advertising that you can do.
Like, you're stalking them for a week online. They can't figure out how or why.
Yeah. Never been to your site.
Yeah, like they've never been to the site, but you're targeting them that way. As long as they're on Facebook. I always get these questions. So there's. We talked about the younger generation not being on Facebook, but I guess they're not really those type of homeowners at this point, right?
So it's the older group that's the fastest growing on Facebook, and those are the ones selling.
Those are the ones that are selling. So when people say, because I get this challenge all the time, well, young people aren't on Facebook, right? That's okay. I know most of those young people aren't buying the types of homes that we're doing. They're not reselling the types of homes that you're doing. So I think that right now the Facebook side of things is it's awesome. I think it's your best investment.
Even if young people are leaving Facebook too, they're still there to a degree now, but it's their parents and the older generation that is there a lot. So yeah, maybe 5 years from now, Facebook's not a great source.
Yeah.
But it is now.
Yeah.
So leverage it now, and 5 years from now, if it's something else, we'll just do the same strategies on there.
And you don't know those people are going to come into Facebook after 5 years, because now they're like, I'm old enough now to be in Facebook.
Yeah.
You don't know that. Is it beer time?
I think it is.
All right. Perfect. All right. So
which one would you like?
You know what? I've had this one before.
So then you drink the other one.
So I'll drink this one, right?
I'm having... Oh, you go first.
Okay, so I am Canuck Pale Ale. Can't get any more Canadian than that.
That's on mine.
What's that?
Mine.
Yeah, yours is coming, right?
Yeah.
So Great Lakes Brewery. And I had never had this before, but it's a man with a log.
I actually have, and I liked it.
Oh, you liked it?
Yeah,
okay, good. So you've had this before?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Or at least one of their two of their beers. It might not have been that one specifically.
All right, good.
They're good. So I'm having Black Creek Historic Brewery, Canada 150, way more patriotic than Canuck Ale.
Nice.
So there we go.
Nice.
So this is the best bitter ale from Toronto.
Oh, very good. Did you like bitter ale?
We'll find out in a minute.
Very good.
So I know you're busy right now. So you have this election going on.
I do. Are your podcasts sponsored by Uber or?
They should be.
Very good.
I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, sponsored by Uber. There we go.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm home already.
That's good.
So you got the RECO election going on.
The RECO election, yeah. I was, I connected with. I deal with a lot of different people in the industry, from different brokerages, from real estate council, Ontario. Like there's a lot of different connections that I come across on a regular basis. And it was brought up that they all thought it would be a great idea if I run for RECO. And I looked into it and I thought, you know what? I love this industry, and I think that this industry, not just in the GTA, probably North America wise, probably the most challenged it's ever been. Right? There's, we're constantly, getting thrown under the bus on the news. Right? You don't hear all the stuff about the great realtors that are out there, CBC specials and everything else. And the unfortunate part is that the majority of people in our industry in real estate are great realtors, like fantastic realtors. It's only that small pocket of individuals that, whether intentionally or not intentionally, are bringing, sort of tarnishing the reputation, right, and making it more difficult for those people that are doing what they need to be doing. That said, there's been a lot of changes over the last little while with, RECO. We talk about the education. On the education side, there's a bunch of different stuff we can talk about with regards to RECO. When we sign up for these elections, they make us read their code of ethics, right? So there's stuff that we shouldn't be talking about. But after a couple pints.
Before we go too far deep into this, for those watching outside of Ontario,
yes,
RECO is the Real Estate Council of Ontario. It's the regulatory watchdog, basically, to make sure everyone's following the rules, and then slaps you on the wrist when you break them. So,
yeah.
That quick aside there for you.
And that's, I think everybody has their own RECO. I mean, there's every province has some type of regulatory body.
So first question about this.
Yeah.
So you're running to be a regional director.
Yes, for Region 1.
What do you actually do as a director?
Well, that's a good question, because I've never been a director before, right? So, part of it is, we're elected by our peers, right? We're representative of our peers. And I think probably from what I've seen, and this is my own observation, there's been such a disconnect between, on the real estate side and what we do as professionals and RECO. And RECO's role is really to serve the public, right? And that's what their role is. However, there's always some challenges when it comes to a regulatory body and its position in terms of how it serves not just the public, but how it polices its industry on a whole. So, as a RECO director, we're supposed to be able to influence and be part of those decisions in terms of the changes that are going to be coming up with the direction in terms of how RECO is going to start managing certain things. So what power does a RECO director have? Is it a elected position just to make it look good as for optics? Yeah. I would hope not. Coming from on the teaching side and with the Ontario Real Estate Association and stuff, I have a different perspective in terms of what RECO's role is, especially on the education side. And a lot of the challenges, I could have put it in a paper, an envelope. When Johnny Carson used to read those things and blow it up in his prediction, I knew that several years ago, probably it's been about 5 years ago, once RECO allowed from the education side that mandatory attendance in the classroom was no longer required. I knew there was going to be an issue.
Yeah.
Right. So how can you be as proficient in your industry and be as professional if you don't attend the classes? Some people are great at doing online; they can comprehend.
Yeah, I know.
You never went to classes, right?
So I went to I did two. So I went to the residential one. No, sorry, the commercial one, because I could get my license sooner doing commercial. So I did that one in class.
Yeah.
Then I went to the appraisal for the first day. Decided I'd have better success selling, and then just the day before the exam, I read the book.
Okay.
And then took the exam.
Okay. So some classes you can do that with, others not so much.
Yeah,
right?
I found the commercial was very valuable. Commercial and real estate law I found very valuable.
Yeah.
In class.
So real estate law is probably important. We'd say probably a factor.
Yeah. It does influence how you generally operate. And help your clients.
Yeah. So there's, but the thing is that people have different ways of learning. And what I found was when we got into, even if it was the course 1 or course 2, I was teaching course 1 for a while. And when you start getting into REBA and RECO and the Code of Ethics, sometimes you don't get what you need to get out of when you're reading a book.
No.
Right? When you're in a classroom and you're looking at the whites of the eyes of the teacher and they're telling you, how people's lives have been affected by, bad decisions that have been made in this particular industry. How some people's lives have been lost. There's some stories that are just incredibly terrible. And the fact that your responsibility in terms of what is you need to know in this particular industry sometimes can't get translated by reading a book, right? Yeah. You need to hear it. I think when RECO changed the update course, was it more convenient to be doing it online? Absolutely, right? But if I hear, it says, how was your RECO update course? It was great. I had my wife hit the space bar while I did the barbecue, so I was able to finish it.
A lot of assistants do it.
You know what? There's a certain, I remember sitting in the RECO update course and Mark Weisletter was in there teaching it, and I walk out scared. Yeah. Right. I didn't want to go there, and by the time I finished that session, everybody didn't want to leave because they wanted more. You get that from that being there, right? Being in class. So the whole continuing education side of things is, I just took the commercial update. Wasn't really much different than the residential update. Didn't really teach me anything more that I needed to know, right? So there's probably a lot of work that needs to be done on that side of things as well. We have education going over to Humber. That's going to be, they're going from a nonprofit to a profit. They're going to be taking care of the education, and you're looking at for you to get registered and to finish your education, it was probably about 250 hours you had to put in total. I think it was somewhere at, don't quote me on the exact numbers, but it's 258 or something like that, I think it is. With the new education system, it's going to be 120 hours, right? So a little less hours. I don't know.
But didn't they up the number of courses? Because like when I did it, it was 3 courses you took.
Oh,
now it's 5.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about under AREA. It was 250 in total, and then under Humber's new, they're going to be taking over. It's about 120.
So it's actually
new education.
Less
you'll need less. Yeah, you need less hours to put in, right? So from what I understand, I need to again. It hasn't finalized or come out, but from what I saw in some of the early reports, that's probably what it is, right? So, and sometimes the ease of getting into real estate is it's a little bit too easy sometimes, right?
Doesn't that mean that they're now making it easier?
You know what? Are they making it easier? I don't know. I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that question. I got to do the political thing right now, right? I know it's half the time, but maybe it's 120 hard hours. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely did not put in 250 hours when I got my license.
Yeah, probably not. But if you were to stay in class and do all those components, I think it works at something like that for all the 6
I might
courses.
have spent that on the second course.
Yeah.
Because the amount of times I fell asleep reading the book. So if I had to redo it, I'd probably do that one.
The second course is a little dry.
Yeah.
It's funny because so now there's a whole transition with RECO. So AREA is now pulling back on the education. So they've now stopped offering course 1, course 2. So it's land structures and real estate as a professional career. Real property law is no longer offered in class, so those 3 are very, very important, right? Yeah. You can still take them, but you got to take them online, right? So what we've done is we have a really, really great instructor for AREA. Her name's Serena Hart. She does adult education and everything else. She's created this Heart Academy, and what we've done with our agent marketing system, we've partnered with her to create the in-class components that for the people that will still want to take it in class, right? So it'll complement what they're doing with AREA. It'll help them become have a better understanding of the material, okay, and be able to apply it, right? Because part of it's not just passing; it's understanding and utilizing that knowledge to be a great
big
realtor.
Difference between able to pass a test and.
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, I see right now, like I see some of these, there's exam tutor people and everything else. They teach you how to pass, right? And that's. Well,
it's like when you walk out of the AREA building and there's that like building across the street.
Yeah,
I know. We'll teach you how to pass every test, and you're like, but it doesn't say anything about understanding the information.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't, and that's the sad part because we want when you're in the industry and you're doing the industry, you want standards to be high, right? You want everybody to come in there and see. We should be all bringing the best for our people that we're serving, right? We want to serve at a higher capacity, and if we all go that same direction, then what does it do for us in the industry? Right?
So are you in favor of making it harder to get your license?
You know what, I think that I don't know if it necessarily has to be harder, but I think it has to be more comprehensive. I think that, if you look at the way the education side was, and it was difficult the way it was, I mean, you would have updates done, and because of the connection between RECO and AREA, like everything kind of had to go through RECO. So if you had updates to a book, had to be approved by RECO. It might take 2 years. By the time that stuff's outdated, so AREA's like, we got to update this now, right? So, so that part of it is difficult to deal with. Now, the other side of it too is for you. Do you think that if you came out of the education side, right? And when you walked out that door, when you got that gown and that hat, which they don't do, but if they did do it, would you be able to walk in and, all right, you know exactly how to do real estate?
No. So, and that was the interesting one is because I need just to get my license as quick as possible. I didn't even take residential real estate as a course because I could get it a month sooner taking commercial instead. And I had no plans to ever sell a commercial property. So when I first started selling, I didn't take residential real estate as a course until a year after I started selling. and I'd already done like 70,000 in commission at that point.
Yeah.
Before I even took by the time I took the course, I was like, most of the course turned into me and the teacher just talking to each other about scenarios that had happened. And I'm like, I just learned this by doing it.
Good.
And I just had at the time, like, I had an amazing broker. Like, there wasn't a ton of training in the brokerage, but just one of those ones who's always available for anything. So that's how I learned.
So there's a thing, because you had an amazing broker,
yeah.
right? And that's a big difference, right? I was talking to somebody today, and they said when they joined the brokerage, they said that they had other people want to join their brokerage, and they said no, we have 24 people right now, and we have that one manager taking care of those 24 people. That's the ratio.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can't go beyond that, or else we can't effectively help these people develop, learn, and build. Right. Once we hire another manager, then we'll hire another 24, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right. So you had that advantage, but that's the other side of it too. There's a lot of larger brokerages right now that have the one manager for 400, and how does that one person be able to support those 400 people that maybe in your particular situation, you walk in, you don't know how to do the deal, put the deal together, how to write the offer, how to do those things right from the beginning. You didn't know that, right?
So I knew how to do the offer side of it. It was more the clause, like the individual, like, okay, I'm dealing with property now with well and septic. Like, I just learned enough about that selling to pass the test, but I didn't really know. And so, like, when I dealt with like a rural property, as soon as like I was like, oh, there's a well here, I'm calling my broker, being like, all right, what do I do? Or like there was another one where it was a foreclosure. I had no idea how. Like, I didn't even know how an agent got a foreclosure listing. Like, I didn't know any part of the process. So then I just drove up to my bank and walked in the front door of the bank and just like, can I talk to a manager about foreclosures? And I ended up sitting down for an hour with the manager of the bank and just learned about the process from her.
Oh, that's great.
And it was great. I was developing a really amazing relationship, and I got like a special treatment at the bank, and they did seminars with me and sent me business.
That's
but great. I just went there to be like, how do you do this? Because there's not stuff that I found out about going through the courses, or maybe I did, but I didn't pay enough attention. I just have to get my license, so I'm going to learn enough to get through.
I think, and the courses, they teach you, there's only a certain amount of time. They teach you kind of the fundamentals. It's like, but it is like teaching you how to play golf without ever swinging a golf club. Yeah. Right. Now it's okay. Here you go. Here's you go. Now go play golf. Right. And you'd be missing the ball. You'd be whatever. And that's why they structure it that you're supposed to do X amount of courses, then go get some practical experience by being actually licensed, right, and registered with a brokerage to get some practical experience along the way, because then you can connect the other stuff that you're learning along the way, right? When AREA changed the format for the learning to the sort of what they call blended learning, where it was more scenario case studies, right? Where it would cover all the areas of that chapter, but within case studies, and you would go through all these scenarios, and you'd have these group discussions and everything else. So what I found when I was teaching that course is the pass rates were phenomenal. Like, they were phenomenal, because now people were understanding this is a case study, this is a real life situation, and here's all these things from this chapter that actually apply to that particular case study. So they understood it, right? And it was much more engaging for the student. It wasn't just an instructor going blah 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 blah. Is that what it was? Yes.
Oh, the second course, like I passed, but like literally, my wife came home from work 3 or 4 different times with me asleep with it on my chest. Like, I literally just like on the couch like this, book on my chest out. So it's like it was. There's only so many times you can read about meets and bounds and be like, yes, this is great.
Meets and bounds. Do you guys remember when you did meets and bounds last?
Probably not.
Yeah. But the thing is that you're. And so when you change these courses, so from when we just talk about measurements, and all of a sudden you give everybody each group a measurement tool, and they got to go measure a room, right, and take things out, and you say, okay, what measure me, and I get them all to write it down, and all 5 groups have something totally different, right? And it teaches you how important measurements are, and then you go into you pull up the RECO site, and people that have issues. Being reviewed on measurements that aren't accurate, and the fines and everything else that kind of connects with those things, and people, wow, this is really, really important. So you start to connect the business, right, with the actual applications, and it works. But anyway, so Humber's going to take it over. They got some NITT is developing the course material with RECO. They're approving it. Humber will roll it out. They'll have simulations, so it's you have to do 35 hours of simulations, which is the simulations. I believe that part of it's being designed by the designers that did Grand Theft Auto.
Oh, cool.
Right. So so that's kind of cool, right?
So you learn from people who teach you how to pick up hookers on the street and then.
I wasn't thinking of it like that. I was thinking.
For anyone who's played Grand Theft Auto, that's a great joke.
I was thinking of something a little bit different, but that's okay.
Well, I haven't played too much Grand Theft Auto.
No, yeah, I know. My kid does. Like it's like you're actually there in the game, right? So, and maybe that'd be cool. You're sitting at a table with somebody. You got to pull out and start doing, which clauses you're going to put in, and then you're putting this, and you're seeing the hand write the clauses or whatever, however they're going to do it. I can't judge it until I actually see it, and then we'll see how it rolls out.
So it's not. So it'll be a lot different than the RECO update courses.
Well, that's the education courses. The RECO update courses are still right now the RECO update courses. From what I understand, I was invited actually to a panel with RECO to sit in on the commercial side. I didn't make it. It was last Friday. I couldn't make it, but so they're trying to redo some of the RECO update stuff. But I think the delivery. When they start taking away from, they used to have RECO update because they used to have third-party people do certain things. They used to have there used to be a lot of you'd be able to choose a lot of really cool stuff that you could learn about, and have it delivered to you, live, right?
So my biggest issue, obviously it's just dull and it's not good, but even looking at, and this is obviously from my perspective as someone who does social media for a living, that social media section of that RECO course might be one of the worst sections of training I have ever gone through. It's
really?
Old information too, right? It was clearly developed years ago, and the problem with social media is it moves so fast.
Yeah.
So I'm just sitting there and I hate the term when someone says I'm a guru. It just bugs me.
Well, you're right. Yeah. And I think for the education material itself, it needs to evolve with the times, right? We need to times change, right? So if a book comes out 10 years ago and you're still teaching to that book, like right now, I know that when they were doing, somebody just did the mortgage course, right? So they said, here's the book, here's what you need to study, and here's the list. They gave them a pile of all the changes because they wouldn't allow to update the book, but here's the changes, and it was this much.
Yeah.
It changes and it evolves. The social media thing. So what would be great is to tap into you and connect you, get you involved in the social media side of RECO in terms of how it relates to the realtors and realtor training. Wouldn't that be fun? Wouldn't you guys like Andrew to take? You know what? And that would be something I would, because now I know it's relevant. And I think that if you know what's relevant to your business and it's going to make an impact on you, are you doing it for the sake of, because I have to do it and I'm not going to get any value out of it? Or are you doing it for the sake of, I can't wait to do this course because I'm going to learn about how to do the social media. And I'm going to learn while I'm doing the social media what's important in terms of, making sure that I have all my criteria, right? Yeah. But I'm actually going to get something out of it that's going to help me develop my business and take it to that next level.
Anyone who goes through the RECO thinking that. Everyone, it's grin and bear it situation. I have to, all right, so it's if you've been in some of the groups, literally the posts are, all right, what kind of wine do I need to get through this?
Right.
And it's they will take a picture of the RECO update course and a bottle of wine, and they're just sitting there
yeah.
Because
they're not connected. There's no value, right? Yeah. So here's what real estate is all about value. What value we bring to our clients, relationships, and everything else. I'd ask everybody that's watching this, if they had an opportunity and it was a RECO update course on the social media side, and it was done by Andrew and it's all relevant to your business, and you knew if you took it, you're probably going to start generating more business. Would you be excited about? You'd probably not hit that space bar like this. You would be absorbing it and replaying it, right? Say, honey, we're not going out tonight. No date night. I'm watching Andrew, right? And you know what? If you could get to that level where you're right. If it's developing something that's meaningful, I need to know this, right? I always talked about, how do we, year course 1, course 2, course 3, or whatever. What about the next stage? What about, that's what I usually do. Is I usually take these graduates and start, okay, let's show you how to run a business, right? Let's show you how you need to start putting stuff in place, what you need to put in place, how to get a CRM, there's so many people that I see in this industry, they don't have a CRM, and that's your heart. It's your, everything has to run out of your CRM.
Well, so it's like when I did the course, like basically kind of like what I used to jokingly tell people when they asked me, because I'm sure a lot of other people like this too. Like when you get your real estate license, you start getting calls pretty quick of other people thinking of getting their real estate license and want to pick your brain.
Yeah.
And currently what we anecdotally tell people would be like, if you're going through the courses, basically you're learning how not to get sued while being a real estate agent. As opposed to here's how you run a business and be successful.
Yes.
It's here's how you can make sure you or your clients don't get sued in the process. Which is great to know. But that should just be a part of it.
Yeah.
Like, there should be here's how you actually run a successful business.
You know what, and again, here's how you not get sued, but it's, here's what you need to do to be successful, and make sure that when you're doing this, you take care of this, this, and this, so you're not going to get sued while you do this, right? So it's connected, because once I see where I want to go, and I say, this is important, I'm going to now absorb all this other stuff along the way, because that's my destination, right? I know this is where I need to be, whether it would be my social media, whether it be marketing, or whatever it is. This is it. So you would connect. It's no different than when I was telling you how I do a lot of the training, right? So I do a lot of training for realtors. I focus on the mortgage side right now for my business, but I don't do, come to my training, I'm going to teach you how your people get pre-approved. No, I teach you value that's going to bring value to your business. I will connect you with tools and resources along the way that you can leverage that might connect to stuff that I do, right? But that's not the focus, right? Because you're focused on building your business, right? And I think that for on that side of it, you just spark some ideas, right? That's when I think it's voting time. Vote,
it's the beer.
Vote now.
It's the beer.
It's the beer. Yeah. Is it realistic to say that a manager can manage 400 realtors, right? Whereas I talked about that scenario before, whereas no, we have 24, we can't take anymore, right? So, and then somebody would come back to me and say, well, a lot of them aren't really doing anything, so yeah, you can take a lot more, but I also think it's those ones that don't really do that much. They don't know what they're doing when they start doing it, right? And because they haven't been doing it on a regular basis. And those are the people that, you see the deals that come through and they're like, the offers are all wrong, and there's missing initials, and they're doing this. And you're the other realtors on the other end, they're the ones that are trying to educate them, right?
It would be interesting as a way to kind of combat it. So there's the sales rep and broker. The difference really, for most people, means nothing. It's just like, okay, you could open up a brokerage if you want. And some in the public prefer a broker, but most people don't even know what the difference is. And there really is no difference. Interesting idea, which I just thought of what you're talking was, what if you made every brokerage could only have so many sales rep per broker? Whether it was the broker had no actual responsibility, but say you had one broker of record, that means you could have 25 agents.
Okay.
If one of those agents became a broker, you could add another 25. And before you then keep going past that amount, and whatever that amount is, you change, someone else has to become a broker. And it doesn't mean that they're responsible for that next group. It just means that they have to move up to being a broker, and then brokers should be held to a higher standard. If you get fined as a broker for violating RECO, whether it's a week, a month, whatever, there should be an automatic, you lose your license for X amount of time, plus your fine. Because now all of a sudden, if you have to move up people to broker, and there's real issues there, I feel like it'd at least help a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how you would structure that. But.
I talked about, I threw that one on the internet too, in terms of, do you think there should be a criteria in terms of managers per agents or realtors? We don't use the word agents when we're teaching, right?
Yeah.
But the, and some of the things are, how do you police it? How do you, as a broker, I can just say, okay, I'm going to make him a manager. right?
Yeah.
And he's not really responsible for any of these people, but on paper, yeah, I know we have X amount of managers per.
But
Whatever.
then should make them responsible somehow. Like,
Well, yeah, I'm not too sure how to do that,
Yeah.
but maybe there has to be some type of criteria, or maybe there is something else that's in between. These RECO update courses. Like there's designations, career designations that every year you need to do X amount of hours of something, right, to maintain your professional level.
Maybe like every fine an agent gets, the broker gets too.
Which is common. Like you see a lot of the brokerages getting fined.
But they shouldn't be able to because like my brokerage when I started, I had to sign a clause that say any fines that the brokerage gets because of me, I have to pay.
Mm-hmm.
So like that also like as part of it shouldn't be allowed because essentially they're being like, well then I don't care what you do.
Well, that's a good point, right?
Yeah.
So because they're saying, no, you got if you get fined and I get fined,
You're paying both.
You're gonna pay both, right?
Yeah.
So
like that should actually become like a no pet clause, invalid clause.
So why would RECO come up with that type of policy? We're gonna fine both of you if it's all getting referred back to the person that actually did it because the brokerage didn't supervise that person the way they needed to, or police that person the way they wanted to.
And I feel like you're an unscrupulous. Like the broker should be able to be like there should be an appeal process where we didn't know what he was doing. We trained him. Here's how we trained him not to do this. He did it anyways, and now we've let him go from the brokerage. And that I'd be fine if you were able to appeal and remove your fine as a broker.
Yep.
But if he stays on,
there's no consequence. So
Yeah.
if there's no consequence, they keep him on.
Yeah.
Right.
From the RECO perspective, because they're opening up REBA again.
Yeah.
How much? And maybe you don't know the answer, but how much? Because Aria and Trep are both they're consulting their members. They're talking a lot about it. How much is RECO involved in changes that are going to be made to REBA?
Okay, so that I have no idea. I'm not in that world yet, but I would think that from what I've heard, they are bringing a lot of people in consulting roles with from the different areas. I know a lot of people that are actually working with RECO right now from our world, to making sure they kind of get an idea and a perspective, right? So. And I think that's important. That's critical. Yeah. When you go back and you, especially REBA and everything else, I think that there's, when was REBA created? 2002, right? So 2002 is a little while ago, right? Probably needs a little bit of tweaking. You would think just a little bit of tune-up, right? Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. So, but I think there also has to be a plan in place to continually revisit, not just okay, here we go, let's put it on the shelf for another 10 years, okay, and then we'll go back and revisit it. I think that when you make changes, there's going to be a ripple effect and that wave that will come down, and you need to analyze it, right? First you need to have research and understand exactly why you're making the decisions. Just like those discussions I put out on some of those Facebook groups, I put it out as ideas, but then there's other things that came and say, hey, that makes sense, right? That makes sense as well. So get perspective, I think, is important. Do the research, have some facts. So some of these things that we're talking about in terms of some of these changes, what do we have to back up, are these the key issues? Where are these key issues coming from, right? There's a lot of different ways you need to approach it, and I think that at the end of the day, I think that if you make a decision, right, and you make a change, you still need to monitor that because you may need to adjust it. It might not be what's right. No different than, the government making these changes on the mortgages and the mortgage rule qualifications and everything else, right? So we're going to see how this falls out in the next, 6 months or so. And then they're going to need to start tweaking it, right? Because, people will still start borrowing money, right? I mean, if the government's role is to try and get people, out of debt, and people are maybe overextended in their debt, people will still buy homes. So because you've tightened up rules, saying now you can no longer get funding at the bank, at 2.3% or 2.6% or 3% or whatever it is, those same people say, darn, I can't get that there. Now I got to go pay 6 or 7 or 8% with a private lender or a B lender because I still need a home.
Yeah.
Right? How does that help me as a consumer or as a first-time home buyer? How does that help me in my future in terms of having less debt over my head?
No.
I don't think it does, right? And the other issue is that you got pockets. Like you do a policy that's, blanketed on Canada as a whole, right? I'm sure this markets that you see in Toronto and Vancouver are not the same in Sault Ste. Marie or Montreal or St. John's.
So we actually talked about this in a past episode. Actually, we had Tim Hudak on as a guest in our first episode. And we were talking about fines related to RECO. Is like a $5,000 fine to an agent downtown Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Well, $5,000 a lot of money. It's insignificant to a degree compared to the amount of commission they're making.
Yeah.
Take that agent in Sudbury, $5,000 could be the entire commission.
Yes.
So, like, that's an update I think needs to happen with fines. Is it's whether not necessarily relative to the commission you're making, but lose your commission and then the fine.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you make $50,000 in commission and you're fined $5,000, that's just the cost of doing business. If you make a $5,000 commission, you lose $5,000. But then you actually will think twice if you lose that $50,000 and then pay another $5,000 on top.
Yeah. Well, I think that you're, so you talk about fines, and there's, it's relative to exactly what you're talking. Like, it all comes into play. So, for example, if you have a realtor that's genuinely made a mistake, right, and not of intention, right? Maybe it's a measurement or something else or something that was unintentional. Like, I know realtors that if that have had RECO call them and they haven't, they've had to go to a therapist because it's like, oh my God, like I can't believe it's like when the government, Revenue Canada calls you, it's like, it's that phone call. Like even my wife said, if you do get elected to the RECO Board of Directors, do not ever call me from one of their phones. I do never want to see RECO's phone number on my call display because I am terrified, right? And so there's a lot of realtors out there, they just don't want to be, it's like being audited,
Well, it's an interesting side of it too, is like, and you hear agents talk about this because like in the groups you'll talk about like, here's a scenario, should I complain to RECO about it?
Yeah.
And one of the number one pieces of advice is don't email them because you're more likely to get in trouble for the information that's lacking from your email signature than what you're actually complaining about.
Right. So maybe there has to be a portal set up. Yeah. Some type of thing where you can actually do a submission. A lot of people don't want to complain because they think, well, if I complain about you, you're gonna try and complain about me, right? Or we got to work together. Like I'd rather, could I say to you, Andrew, you know what? You did this. Can you stop doing that? Mm-hmm. And do I have to go to RECO to do that? Mm-hmm. Maybe. If I talk to you and you're an ass back to me and you're just like, okay, this guy's not getting it, right? And but when I have situated, like I heard this other story the other day where this mortgage broker, not in my team, so somebody else said, listen, I want to help you with your open house. He said, okay, no problem, show up at this house on this day, right? So unlicensed person helping with an open house, right? Shows up and he says, listen, here's the feature sheets, whatever. I'm also doing an open house across the street, so if anybody shows up there, let them in. I got to go to my kids' hockey. I'll see you in a couple hours. And he left. And the mortgage was like, what the hell's going on, right? I thought I would be here with him and help him pre-qualify some whatever. Yeah. So this person is actually doing this guy's open house, right? So anyway, he gets a call complaining, right? Because somebody wants to get into this open house. This person wouldn't let them in.
Yeah.
And she said, and then there's people waiting to come in this house. She wouldn't let them in because there's already somebody in. She's walking them through the house because she has to make sure that everything's secure in the house. She's doing a better job than a lot of the realtors I see actually doing regular open houses. So then this guy goes pulling up. He starts screaming and yelling and said, "Why am I getting calls? Why am I getting?" He says, "I had people in this house. I can't leave this house while people are in this house and go show them that house." And you don't know what you're doing, right? That's terrible. Like
you get fined?
well, she didn't even know where to complain, or
Yeah.
she didn't even know it was an issue, because that's the other thing too, is that when you say, you're there to protect the public and the public can complain, but a lot of them, like, how do they know what to complain about?
Yeah.
How do they know that's not the normal thing? Like, why should the public be policing what
And
we're
that,
doing?
like, that's a lot of work for them, and they don't even get anything out of it. Like,
No.
it's, to them, it's almost like, do it for the public good, but for them, it's like, why should I take all this time out of my
Yeah.
when they're not getting anything?
Yeah, so maybe there's something else that has to be set up, that it's more a little bit easier, to deal with some of the issues that can be dealt with relatively effectively and quickly. That's there's the more serious things. Yeah, I understand, but a lot of the stuff is just being let go, and it's like, hey, if I can get away with this now, well, no problem. I'll do it again, and I'll do it again, and I'll do it again. Right?
And it just gets a little bit worse and a little bit worse.
Yeah, it gets a little bit worse, and it's like, well, don't worry about RECO. Like, what if they won't do anything, right?
Yeah, so it should be like incremental fines too. Like each thing, every time you get fined, it should be a little bit worse than the time before.
Yeah, especially if it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
even if it's not though, like even if you're doing a different thing every time, how many times can you honestly make that many mistakes?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like even if you create, like maybe I've just learned how to cover up this issue.
Yeah,
The next
yeah.
one. Like, if you've been fined 6 times by RECO, it's no longer just a I honestly made a mistake issue. It's
and it's gonna
unintentional.
be, and it's gonna be relative. Like if you're forgetting on your advertising to put the copyright after the word realtor, okay, is that a big deal? Yeah, it's supposed to be there, right? But it's not going to. Public's not going to be misled because you didn't put the little copyright sign there. So that's not an issue.
Give out the lockbox code to a buyer.
That's an issue, right? That is a serious issue, right? So. And if those things happen, or there's a recurring issue, what's in place to get these people either educated, fined, what do you, because before it was like, oh, you having an issue here, you got to go do the residential course again.
Yeah.
What's that going to do relative to,
especially if you don't have to go in class.
Yeah.
You can just show up to the exam, write it, and.
But they're also being sent to the Real Estate Institute of Canada, code of ethics and some certain things like that, which are probably more effective, right? Which would make sense, right? So, and that was another thing in the discussion. So I'm throwing these things out there, and a lot of times on the real estate side, they don't feel like their voices are being heard. Mm-hmm. They feel that one of the best ways to police the industry is within ourselves. We're very capable of helping to police what each other do, right? But there should be an easier way to do that. And if you do it, if I have an issue and it's brought up, is it being addressed 6 months or 9 months or a year later, right? What's the and maybe it's because of how many is happening, right? And that could be an issue of resources, right? And management, how it's being done. So, do I have an answer? No. But there's a problem, and there's an answer there. And
enough people in a room, you could figure out.
I think so, right?
Yeah.
And that's the big thing, is just listening, and getting the ideas and just adjusting. And I think you gotta. There's answers to be had, and I think the industry is a beautiful industry. I think it can be a fantastic industry, and I think that a consumer is at a disadvantage if they're not using a realtor in the process of buying a home, right? And they need us on that team, right? We're paid for our marketing ability, we're paid for our negotiation ability, and we're supposed to help them navigate through that transaction seamlessly. There's going to be turbulence, but we're the pilots, right? And we have to pilot them through and meet the emotional needs of our clients as best we can, to get them, saying, you know what, I love my realtor, I'm going to refer them to the next person. And that's our end goal, right? So on the RECO side, hey, there is work to be done. It's not perfect, and it's not perfect. We know it's not perfect. But it's a matter of creating those discussions. And that's, running for the RECO Director. Tough thing to get into. It's not something
Not the
like I say.
popular
I didn't wake up tomorrow and say, "Wow, I want to be a RECO director.
Yeah.
I can't wait." But there's work to be done, and I think that, you know, and part of the thing, because I don't own a brokerage, right? So I'm not restricted by, you know, this doesn't make, you know, if a policy comes out that might not make sense for my brokerage financially, that doesn't matter to me, because it has to be the good of the industry, right? And I think that that's important too. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, good.
So if people want to vote, where do they go?
They go to reco.on.ca/elections, and then you can vote there. There's a portal there, but there's also an email that RECO sent out. You know, the ones that go to your spam, the ones that you know don't see that often,
Yeah.
and you can just reply to that email and vote there as well.
Perfect. Thanks for joining the latest episode of Over a Pint. We're here with Lorne Andrews. Stay tuned for more episodes, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. That was awesome.
Thanks for coming.
All right.